Hello. Oh, wow. It's a little bit loud. All right. Thank you guys very much for joining us for this session. We have Attila here from HP. We were just chatting a little bit earlier. This is like how many conferences now?
Haven't counted.
Haven't counted
since Q3. How many do we have?
Since Q3. So Attila is definitely a veteran of Qt and quite familiar. We have a great presentation about I can't even how to pronounce it properly.
React Native.
React Native, yeah. So please grab a seat. We'll be going through the presentation, and then we'll have some time for Q&A afterwards. So if you guys have any questions, please save it to the end. And thank you guys very much, and I'll hand it on over.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. I'm Attila. I'm working for HP. I'm in the Immersive Computing Group, and this session is just a bit of a spin in terms of the tooling that we were using in one of our projects I thought was interesting enough to share, and then the kind of folks here at the summit thought that it's going to be interesting for a wider audience. So here I am with it. And as the title says, building performant web UIs with Qt is probably not the easiest thing you can do here. So just for a quick show of hands, how many of you have some sort of web content in your Qt applications? All right, so I thought there was going to be more, but good. And how many of you are in contact with web stuff in general? So, all right. OK. Anybody, by the way, using React already in some shape or form? Some proud hands? OK, it's OK. This is Qt conference, but it's OK, so don't worry. So without further ado, let's get started. So, the web guys, in general, when you go to a web developer conference, it's always going to be, oh, web apps all the way. That's the future. And it's been a couple of years now since we hear that, decades in some cases, but it's not kind of coming, because even though with all the great promises, it's going to be cross-platform, it's a very easy learning curve, you can get quick and write something very easily, it's a reusable knowledge, works across platforms, huge ecosystem, everything is awesome. And then when you show it to people, then, oh, well, it kind of is slow. Yeah, it's jaggy. In the next iteration, it's going to be awesome. The next browser has this magic engine, which is so much quicker. The CPUs are going to get quicker, etc. And I'm hearing that for 10 years. The problem is that the expectations are better or rising as well. So 5 years ago, if we hit 20 FPS, that's going to be awesome. But today it's like, yeah, it's kind of jittery, right? So it's not that easy. So the target is moving as well. So there's always going to be a gap. Just there is an inherent kind of overhead there. So that's something that is very, very hard to address. And even though the web world is trying to catch up, Qt actually has a very kind of good idea here, and that's the reason why we still have the Qt World Summit, because it's actually doing so well in the UI arena and has this ability to create very, very nice user interfaces on very specific or sometimes even limited hardware. So, the interaction between Qt and the web world is something that has been going on for a while. So with the early starts with QtScript, just kind of having a bit of JavaScript here. And again, if you have issues with JavaScript, don't be angry at me. That's something that started a long time ago. And then certain parts got added. We got WebKit, we got QML somewhere along the way as well. And then we, of course, got Qt WebKit and other components on our web channels that we can use to communicate between the various stakeholders, between the web side of the world and the Qt and QML side of the world. But it has been a fairly complex story, right? So it wasn't always easy to kind of put these things together, the Qt stuff and the web stuff. So on paper, it looks very easy and straightforward. I just put import web engine or WebKit in the old days, and then just say a web view and put these things are there, and everything is great, right? How many of you did that? There are some hands, right? So, I make this awesome QML UI. Everything zips along. It's super great, super performant. I like it very much. And then somebody comes and says, oh, there is just this web stuff that you need to put in. And then you say, OK, so I put this little web engine here, or web view, whatever. And you can kiss performance goodbye. So obviously, there are workarounds, and some people run a business on making this work well. But the problem is you are carrying an oversized load. So there is a number of things that need to play very well together. There is a scene graph, a lot of stuff going under the hood in terms of the graphic system, which Qt and Qt Quick is using in general, and also the Chromium or whatever engine is running there that needs to power the web content, right? So if you're lucky, you'll just kind of deal with it and manage to find a solution which is good enough that can reconcile the two worlds. And if you're not that lucky, then this big sort of load that you're adding ends up being in the wrong place, right? So you have your little nice house, and then there is this huge, huge thing going through it. And then like, okay, so I have the two things in one place, but not exactly in the shape or form I wanted. So, can we do something about this? So step one, go to your web designer and say, hey, why don't you learn QML? It's so good. It's great. It works for me. It's awesome. So it's very quick. You have a lot of access to native APIs. The whole Qt world is there. It's awesome. But then on the flip side, they will say, well, I need to learn a new syntax. So this QML thing, yeah, it's kind of JavaScript-ish or JSON-ish, but yeah. And then you'll need to use probably Qt Creator. Oof. So I can do my own workflows, and then I like Chrome and DevTools and all that. So it's pretty much new everything. I'm going to just stick with the web crowd. So I don't know how many of you have been successful. I haven't. I'm probably just kind of bad at convincing people to use Qt for everything. So most of them, at least in the web developer world, tend to stick with it. And especially with web designers, they have a kind of, I'm using what I have and what I know what I'm good at. And then I get good results, and I'm not going to kind of play around and just grow my tech stack so that I need to keep up with more and more and more stuff that is coming along. So the web world is kind of large enough on its own. So this doesn't really work. I cannot convince them. So how to do it right? So any ideas? No. Here's one. So let's take a step back here. So what's this React.js thing anyway? So the official definition, I'm going to read it because it's an official thing, a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. So it kind of sounds weird already because you think that, hey, web, it kind of already has a user interface. It's called HTML, right? So React is actually trying to be the view in an MVC world. So try to think about it this way. So it's not just about having data or having a way of interacting with the data. It's really the view. So how do I display this and get this there on the display? And it actually has a couple of things which will sound very, very familiar if you are working with QML. So it's a declarative thing. So you define how the view looks like for various states. So how do I show things? So it's not like you manually need to set the individual attributes, say, in your HTML tags, and then say that, this is 5, this is a string, this is something. But rather, in a very similar fashion like in QML, you would have sort of a binding, if you wish, where you can now show specific values for these values, for these attributes. It's component-based, so you actually reuse components which can then render themselves. So they're not HTML. It's an object that can show its content. So it's very much like QML in this regard, that where also you define things and you have their own properties which are kind of logged into the object itself, and then you draw it and reuse it. If you have components, if you have delegates or things like that, you can always reuse that. And it says learn once, write everywhere. So that we also heard a couple of times. It rarely comes out right? So the story there is that they are actually, in terms of React, abstracting away the web browser. So everything is actually happening on the React side. So there is no HTML. And this is where React is cheating a bit, because when web developers say that, so what is this? Is this some web stuff? And then you say, yes, definitely. This is HTML all the way. And then, no, there is none. So that's the biggest cheat. In React, everything is JavaScript. So they use HTML to kind of make developers and designers who are very familiar with HTML feel at home. So that's really the trick there. All it does is it actually generates something that is making, let's say, the strings that make up an HTML page. So it kind of sounds a bit abstract, but on the next pages you can see how this looks like. So already from the syntax, you can see that it looks weird. Like I have it's not a syntax error. I have the thing mixed here that there is a function. There is a straight HTML thing in there in the function. So how does that work? It doesn't make any sense. It's good. In the web world, a lot of things just don't make sense on the first look. So no strange things there. So this is weird in this spot, and that is because this is a cheat. What you actually are doing is this. So somewhere along the way, the browser does a bit of magic. JavaScript is very strong on magic. So it actually is a function call, and it's constructing these objects and creating them on the fly. So wait a minute. So we don't really write HTML, don't we? No, not at all. So how does an actual component look like in React? And something like this. So here's an example class, how you create an object. And you can see that the render one in the middle sort of shows you how it displays itself, so it kind of renders a full HTML in the end. But from a user perspective, you don't see this, right? So a component defines its own way of how it renders itself. This, again, might sound a bit odd, but that's just because there is an idea that came to me at this point when I saw React, or what it's doing. We'll do that later. So, there is this thing I was doing a while back with QML. So I can do something very similar, that I can create QML objects on the fly. I can define their properties, their children, whatever, on the go. So is there any reason why I couldn't do the same thing, right? So here's React powered by Qt. I'm not generating HTML at all. So since it doesn't care about the browser, it's not HTML in the first place, I'm continuing to use React, but instead of compiling to HTML, I'm actually using QML under the hood. So my web designer says that, hey, I'm writing just HTML, JavaScript, as I did before, and then suddenly the whole Qt QML-powered engine comes up, and all the windows, everything is native. So this is the question, when you go to a web developer conference, this is the power of web. When you go to a Qt conference, this is the power of Qt, right? So it kind of works both ways, which is the good story here. So you kind of can have the cake and eat it too. So I made a little bit of a layer here, and I will not call it a wrapper. It really generates QML objects, so it's a bit different in this context. And then we secretly replace these HTML components with the QML equivalent, so don't tell the web guys about this. And then we do all the rendering on the QML side. This is how we get our performance back. So there is no browser kind of running or showing anything. There is no DOM which needs to be maintained by the browser. So React knows the state of things in terms of the view, and then just kind of shuttles that back to the QML side. And after we're set up, there is absolutely no difference in terms of the performance between our little React code and a native QML. Oh, it sounds weird, but a QML application. So let's meet React. How does this look like? So React Native actually was a similar idea that was born before this, and they were using it in a very similar fashion to generate or wrap, if you wish, native components on mobile. So the idea was that I can do the same thing, but instead of writing HTML, I write the classes that are required for Android, for iOS, and such. Now, the problem with that is that you need to do it for each individual platform, and it's kind of a hard thing to maintain. The benefit of using Qt instead is that you get all the support for every platform that Qt supports. So your benefit is that I can still maintain this promise of the web that I run on everything that Qt is running on, and I don't need to write individual code for, let's say, iOS or Android. So I just really draw it. And this is how it would look like. So in theory, if somebody was a React developer, they would be writing something like this, and they would be living in the belief that they are actually writing HTML code, and this is a perfect valid web stuff there at all. But then what really happened is that we gave them the performance. So you have the speed, the rendering, everything, scene graph stuff. So everything that you had from the QML side. We allowed the website to use the existing tooling. So this looks a bit weird because DevTools and everything still runs on Chrome, but then you suddenly see a native window pop up, and then it runs at full speed and renders that with OpenGL or whatever you have. And then you can debug it. You see the states, or React maintains the state and properties, so you can see that. You can step through the JavaScript, etc., and all that. And they don't really care about the QML stuff, right? So the designer doesn't need to know how we implemented something on a low level. So it doesn't really matter to them. It's more about like, how do I put my components? How do I switch between the views? Is the shown data in the format that I would like to? And that can be done on this level. That works very nice. We still have access to native APIs. Again, they don't care if we provided this through Qt or it was a magic wrapper like in Cordova or something else. And we actually can allow them to share code. And this is super, super, super important. So for a web developer, one of the key propositions is that I can write my web stuff and it runs equally well on all sorts of devices. And Qt is having a similar angle, but you know that making different user interfaces on very, very different devices is very tricky. So it's not going to be the same interface if it's a phone or if it's a huge desktop PC, right? So it's a very, very different approach. At the same time, I can say that with React, I can, for the purpose of the web developer, say that you write your designs or views for a desktop device. This is what you would see on the web. So if you go to a regular browser, this is what's it. Use these magic parts that I provide you with, or these imports with React, and suddenly you're rendering into Qt, and it can be run on any device. For the designer, there is sort of no technical difference between running on a phone or a desktop browser. They just use a different tag, a different import statement, and that's it. So it's a lot easier learning curve for them than to kind of learn Qt and QML as a whole, and then just say, okay, so if you did a website, then you write this stuff with React or anything else. And then if you want to do something which is embedded or mobile, then you switch to something completely different, and then you write that. And God forbid, maintain the two in sync. So that's where it gets really, really hellish. So we didn't ask them to learn new syntaxes. There is no new tooling, so we can still use the web stuff for debugging and tracking, and there is no new everything for them. So we kind of managed to eliminate all of the downsides. So that sounds like a good proposition, but what do we win? So we can hide away and keep our nice little C++ and QML code, and we can write this, and if we're not too loud, then they will not be angry at us, which is good. So we can keep on writing good and performant level stuff. So the other thing is that in this way, we can very easily smuggle and create new components and items with QML, which is fairly easy, and these will automatically be available to all our web developers and designers. So if I have a magic new button or component I wish to use, then that's just literally going to show up in React as a mapped component that they can use from the next build. And well, last but not least, you can be friends with web developers. It's not that difficult. So it's not a bad proposition. So this is all a big plus in terms of maintaining the two worlds in parallel without sacrificing the performance on one side, and also the ability to interact with all the designers and everybody who's using just generic HTML stuff. So the goals for React when I was creating is like, one, performance. I really like performance. Like Qt is so nice. You have your 60 FPS, silky smooth user interfaces. I'm kind of having a hard time giving that up, as appealing as sometimes the web might sound. On the flip side, it's sometimes very difficult to have the web developers write something for embedded and desktop Qt targets. And I'm saying that this is an application perspective. They say, well, if it's a desktop, then it's going to be just a browser. And you say, no, I would like an application because there is this APIs and everything else that I would like to just feel right on a desktop application. So this is also a way around that. This is the way we can sort of expose the APIs and everything else, whether it's mobile or desktop to them. Then also, it's a lot easier to learn new components rather than new syntax in new languages, right? So if something is called body or view or whatever, that's super easy to kind of switch. There is a new one. Okay, I started going to use the new one. But if you say, well, here's a completely new syntax, so then it becomes very, very tricky. So try to stick to learning components rather than syntax, and we, for free, get all the Qt APIs. And we also get, as a side benefit, the compatibility with the React ecosystem. So whatever it was written for React as a plugin or as a library or anything of the sorts, they can still use, and we can also combine with our QML applications. Conversely, if this is running on, let's say, Node.js, that means that all your QML stuff can happily communicate and interact with everything that has ever been written for Node.js. So, npm install and off you go. So all of that stuff can be super easily plugged in, and nobody needs to know that under the hood, the 60 FPS goodness is actually coming from the QML engine. We'll just keep that secret to ourselves, and they will never find out our secret sauce. So I said this was originally just as a kind of an idea, like how this would be an interesting way of figuring out how to do efficient collaboration between web designers and actually people who write the UIs, so have that in an efficient way. And we did it as a quick UI prototyping exercise for a passport renewal process. Downstairs, there is a Sprout machine, a Sprout by HP. So yes, I'm working for HP, so not that surprising. And one of the applications, the examples and demo applications that we are using for that is this passport renewal application. So some of you might have seen this already. So in that case, there's a number of screens here now. Let me just try to juggle with this a bit. Did I get it right? Okay. So let me just start it. So the idea is that it's basically a Windows 10 PC, which has a number of cameras on top, and also a projective display and the touch mat at the meeting. So this is used as an input device for a lot of the flows, and basically as a kiosk device in this particular application. So what you see here is a QML application, but written in React. So you can see from the user interface, I'm using 30 custom components because of the requirements of the UI designers. But then you can see that the performance, the animations, everything else is pretty much what you would expect from Qt. And this is full HD displays running and all that. I hope that it's visible, yes. So you can see we are scanning Passport. It's a blended reality application, so we can provide hints, we can scan things, we can OCR things, all that, and use all the QML goodness under the hood for the UX to maintain the performance we would expect, even though officially we are web if somebody asks and there is a requirement for a web. So that's how it looks like in action. So. And of course, big buttons. Everybody loves big buttons. So it's amazing on a 20-inch screen how much real estate you have to juggle around, and that's a very nice thing. So there we go, with keyboards, with list views, and everything else. So all these components are, so even though they are implemented under the hood in QML and they're animated by QML, are actually wrapped through the React code, so they look webbish. And then we can use all the components that we have from Qt, so like the virtual keyboard, the touch, etc. So all these, and they work very, very quickly and nicely. So most of the time, if you run into components like this, that's going to be very, very difficult. So anyway, I think that you saw what this can do in action. And well, there's a bit of payment. Well, the NFC. So that's sort of like whenever your web applications get NFC payments, you know that you're in good company, because that's usually not that trivial to do. But that was a quick walkthrough. So from the idea of how we can sort of get the two worlds to work and collaborate nicely together, so that we maintain both the performance and the benefits of being able to have the web designers work with our stuff and create cool designs for us, and have these work together nicely in an example project that I have. So I'm still, unfortunately, in the process of publishing it. That's the final step, which is always kind of a bit of an issue with larger organizations. But then hopefully I will soon have a GitHub link, and that's, if there is a video of this, then it's going to be added on top of that where you can get, and then hopefully well, let's see where it goes. All right, so that's what I had for you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them if we still have time.
Yes, I was wondering how far you can go. Like, for instance, Google Maps. Could that be put into your?
Well, yes. I haven't tried it, of course, and that there would be some. I'm pretty sure that it does a lot of things which I haven't thought of. So that's kind of a work in progress in that sense. But then I'm certain that it can be done. So it's just a question of how much effort.
And do you, I presume you get full CSS3 CSS support?
This is again on the, like, I didn't implement it for this particular scenario, but there is no reason, just for like the way you interact with the properties and everything else. So there is no reason why you couldn't map them and then have the CSS, whether it's animations or just properties that you're setting, colors, you name it, that can be done just as easily. It's really just, so that's why I wouldn't call it a wrapper. It's really a mapping of the two things. So if you have something defined, whether it's CSS or this fake HTML, how do I kind of transfer that to the QML side? In some cases it's easier, in some cases not. If it's attributes, that's super easy. So properties, all that can be mapped very easily. The only remark I would make is that in some cases, performance considerations might be there. So something that is, designers think that, oh, this is super quick if I do it with a CSS animation like this, and that particular, let's say, animation is a bit slower in Qt. That notwithstanding, it can be done. Sorry. Yeah.
First, this is awesome. Thanks for doing it. So when you open source, are you planning to, how many of the QML components you are planning to actually release? And also, how difficult it would be actually to create custom components?
So on the, I didn't hear the end of it. Sorry.
How difficult it is actually to create custom components?
Right.
Like if I create a custom QML component.
The idea is to make it as easy as possible. So that shouldn't be difficult. So I can do it in literally minutes. So whenever I have, so if you have, let's say, a QML file which is a component, that is super easy. So the more magic there is, signal slots, everything coming in properties, then it gets lengthier. But just having literally a component that can render itself, that's super easy. If it just kind of has properties, that's literally seconds. And as for the wrapping, so it's an automated process. So everything that's kind of in the Qt quick package gets sort of wrapped or mapped automatically. So I just kind of go through the list of components and then the properties, mappings, etc. So that goes there. For the rest, there might be tricky ones like multimedia is a good candidate for having a bit of manual kind of looking at so that it comes out right. But at least for starters, you will have full Qt quick.
Awesome. We have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Any on the side? Oh, any other ones? Oh, you can go again.
As for tooling, I saw that you wrote like ES6. Do you use Babel? What will be the rest of the tooling?
Yes, so Babel it is. So from that side, that depends a bit on what you're using as a backend. So if there might be differences if you are using, let's say, web engine, right? What are the requirements there? And if you're running, let's say, on Node.js. So it depends on what engine you are running on in the background. So I don't really care in terms of what I'm running on. So you can go both ways, or use an engine of your own. But then I normally use Babel. But then if you need something else, or you already have whatever magic atmosphere we are at, then that's your choice.
Awesome. All right. Well, Attila, where can we find you later on if we have some more questions or anything?
I'll be around, most likely around the HP Sprout. And I'm here also tomorrow all day. So if you see me, then feel free to ask anything.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, please give Attila a warm round of applause. That was fantastic. I have learned that web developers can be our friends. So it's awesome. And this is for you. It's a copy of Kevin's book signed by him as well.
Thank you.
So, logistically wise, the closing ceremonies will be, for today, will start in about 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes in the room next door where we started this morning. So if you can head on over, we can get started shortly. Thank you, guys.